Hi, my name is Erin Anding. I'm the school librarian and site technology facilitator at Glen Oaks Magnet High School. And this presentation, it has to do with probably the biggest amount of concerns and questions I get on a day-to-day basis as the school librarian and site technology facilitator. So it is my hope that during this presentation, you will learn some of the um, common mistakes, or what I should say is common pitfalls, that I would hope you would be able to avoid. And if you do get caught up in a situation where one of these might apply, I give you some guidance on how to get out. Okay. Trust me, everyone has done something related to one of these. I'll even tell you about how I've done a couple. Okay. So this is by no means a be end all list, but it is probably the biggest things people have come to me in a panic about. Okay. Now I'm a person who likes things, nice and neat in her presentation. So I really wanted this to be the top 5. But as I started the presentation, I went, ooh, that's really top 6. Okay. So this is the top 5, no 6 G Suite for Education questions I traditionally get as your school librarian and site technology facilitator. I hope I explained them to you well enough that, especially if we're in a virtual situation, you'll be able to figure out effectively and quickly how to get out of them. Okay. So let us begin. So it's the top 6. First one being logging into G Suite on a device other than a district Chromebook. Okay, for the most part, our students this year will be logging into their assigned district issued Chromebook. They use their school username and password. They get in, it's just fine. However, something will then happen where they might need to use a family laptop, or they're going to go to the public library and use a desktop there. And all of a sudden, they think they can't get in. Okay, that's not actually the case. You just need to know with what credentials you need to sign in. So I happen to be on my personal laptop today so that I can show you this. If you need to log into something other than the district issued Chromebook, you're going to go to the google.com homepage. Okay. You sign in up here where it will say sign in. I happen to already be signed in. Mine is the active account right now, and you know that because there's me. That's my Google profile that I've uploaded. If not, it's going to be my initials. And the answer to the problem is right there. See where it says Google account Erin Anding, eMurray at ebrschools.org. Okay, the at ebrschools.org is the key. See, if you really look at a district issued Chromebook, it's not just a student username and password. You're actually logging into your Google account, your G Suite for Education account. So it actually says blank at ebrschools.org. Okay, the at ebrschools.org is already encoded in. All right. So when you go into a system that doesn't have that already encoded in, such as my laptop, you personally need to add the at ebrschools.org. If you do that, most likely you'll get in, use the same password. If that doesn't get you in, we're probably looking at a typing error. If it really, really, really doesn't work even after that, then I might have a situation where I need to put a help desk ticket in. But most of the time, adding the at ebrschools.org will take care of it. Okay. Now, it was at this point that I realized I needed to add the next part, which is what made the number 6, but in reality, the second one that I'm going to present. All right. And that's this. Where did my stuff go? All right. Ironically, this is probably the number 1 reason people come to me. They're panicking because they've lost their stuff. It's not that you lost. Well, okay, you did lose it. You don't know where you put it because you don't know what account you put it into. And I can tell you the 2 scenarios this happens. All right. Best practice is always to log out. So if you're on your Chromebook at the end of the day, log out, and actually to power down so we can deal with your operating system. That's another video. But no matter what, log out. In the ideal world, only you will use your district issued Chromebook because it has been issued to you. However, in the past, they were all shared. Student at the end of the class should have logged out, and then at the beginning of the next period, another student should have logged in. But this student never logged out. They should have, but they didn't. And then came the next class period, and when the next student opened it, what they really should have done as a best practice would have been to log the previous student out. But they didn't. and then they started typing. And when they typed, they didn't leave their stuff on their G Suite for Education account. They left it on the previous student's G Suite account. Now, the problem is, I don't know what student came before. So we really can't get your stuff back. If this happens at your house, hopefully at most, the only other person who used it was another student, such as a sibling, who logged in. So it might be a little bit easier to figure out where your stuff went. But best case practice is your own device and afterwards logging out. Now, if you're on a laptop, let me show you where this becomes a problem. Notice it's my picture. But notice another account can get added. All right, you can have as many accounts sitting there. I mean, I've seen some desktops on the campus with 10 different names logged in. Now, that's potentially okay if these following 9 are signed out. But if they're not signed out, you can have 2 active accounts, 2 open accounts or more at the same time. When you do that, you run the potential of putting something in someone else's account. I'm not going to lie. Last spring during distance learning, I accidentally put something in my son's account. He's a first grader. I had to go in and get it out. Okay? This is the one that's actively being used, but others below could be active as well. And it's pretty easy to accidentally flip. Best practice here is to sign out. Okay? So that you have to sign back in. You can even, when you sign in, potentially remove an account. Okay? This is a possibility that truly best case practice. All right? Now, sign in. Sign back into my account. So now let's go to the third thing. We talked about logging in. Where's my stuff? And then there's this one, Drive versus other basic apps. And by that, I mean the core. So slides, docs, sheets, forms, Google Drawings. Not everything, but the bulk of Google is all linked together in a way you have to understand to make all this make sense. And that is Drive drives it all. Think of Drive as home base. Okay. It's where you store things. It's your thumb drive. It's your jump drive. It's your hard drive on the laptop. It's where things get saved. Okay. And by that, I mean, it's where all the main things get saved. So for example, if you do something in Google Docs, it is saving in Google Docs and you can go there, but it is also saving in Google Drive. Okay. If I edit a Google Sheet through my Google Drive, it's being saved there, but it also got updated in Google Sheets. Okay. Drive is where everything gets held together. Docs, Sheets, etc. only hold the things like themselves. Okay. Drive is the main place to upload things from your desktop. And it's the main place, not saying totally, that you would think to download if you want to get everything at one point. Okay. This becomes a problem because people don't understand the connection. And then later on, we get to the next part, and that doesn't make sense. So our kids get confused. I saved it in my Google Doc, but my teacher said to go to my Google Drive. Or the kids go into the Google Drive, and the teacher's like, no, we were working in Google Docs. They work in connection. Okay. That leads to this one. Now, I have made this mistake, and it was a pretty big mistake as a teacher. And at that point, I was even a Google 2 certified educator. Okay. When you go into Classroom, Google Classroom, one of the ways your teacher might give you an assignment is with the phrase, make a copy. Okay. So I'm going to go to my demo class, and I have made a pretend assignment that I have yet to assign. But I want you to see something. It says student can view file, student can edit file, make a copy. Okay, let's say I did this one. Now, view file just means you get to open and look at it. Edit file means any kid who opens it can edit and change it. That would be like group work or something. But make a copy. Let's say the teacher wants every single kid to get their own copy so they can type out on themselves and then turn it back in. Okay, I do that a lot. That's where I made my mistake. So I do make a copy. I love it, by the way. It's a fantastic, but you need to know one thing. And I'm going to assign it. So this is me on the teacher side, and I'm assigning it to you. So now it's sitting here, and you as a student, this is me, but you on your side will see it under your classwork, and it's going to say make a copy. Okay? And you click that and you work on it. Now, in most cases, when I've used this, students finished in one class period, and it wasn't that big a deal. They turned in. But what if you have to come back and forth to it? Let's say the assignment lasts like a whole week. This is where I had some issues last fall. When it's time for you to come back to it, so the teacher told you to make a copy, which you did on Monday. You come back, let's say Tuesday or Wednesday, and you continue working on it. I want you to see this right up here. See where it says Class Drive folder? Okay? And Google Calendar. Everything's connected to each other. The moment you enter this Google Classroom, you got a Google Calendar for it, and you got a Class Drive folder. See, all of your stuff really isn't sitting in Google Classroom. It's really sitting in a Drive folder for the class. So the moment your teacher said make a copy, you made a copy and it got stored in this Class Drive folder. Okay? If you want to come back to it, you need to go here. What I had happen though with last year was students they came back the next day, and they hit the link make a copy again. What they did was they made copy number 2. Some of them clicked it 5 or 6 times, and each time they made another copy. So to them, all of their stuff was missing. It wasn't missing. They were just looking at the wrong copy. They should have been looking at the original, which was saved here, and not copy number 6. Unfortunately, it took me a couple of days to figure out what was going on, and by that point, there were some issues, which we got fixed, but I would like you to avoid that from the beginning by realizing everything stays in the Class Drive folder. Okay? Now, going on, notice that when I gave that assignment, that pretend assignment, it said you could edit, you could this, you could that. That's going to be about these here. These kind of go together hand in hand. So sharing versus emailing. Okay? This has died down on our campus, but it might potentially come back because of a new situation. All right? You have the potential in Google to share. And there are many ways to share. But you can share documents, you can share sheets, etc. But sharing is not necessarily emailing. Sharing is working within like Google Drive. Emailing is actually sending back communications. Now, is it possible when you share to notify someone with an email? Yes. Okay. And I almost always do that. If I share something amongst several faculty members, I add a notation. I click saying that I would like to send them an email, and I, send a quick little something. They get an email that something has been shared. But sharing is different from emailing. When we first started this process, we had a real problem because the kids were sharing because that's all their device and their G Suite for Education account would allow them to do. So they were sharing with teachers. Teachers were like, no, you didn't email me. You didn't send it to me. Kids were saying they emailed, which was wrong. They were sharing. Teachers were only looking at the email, which wasn't right either, because the kids weren't necessarily sending the notice saying, and we had a lot of miscommunication. That has died down as we've gotten more used to Chromebooks and G Suite for Education. However, this year it might come back up again. Last year we opened up Gmail, student Gmail accounts to upperclassmen. This year, with everything going on, schools that are coded as high schools, every student has potential to now create a district issued Gmail account so that they can email effectively with their faculty or with what's going on. So now we will have sharing and emailing going on at the same time. You need to be aware. Did you share it? Did you email it? Did you share it and add a notation that, for an email so that they got notified? Which one did you do? Share, email, share with an email. Okay. We might have some hiccups with that because now we all got used to one, but we're opening up another. If you need to remember how to make your student account, please refer to another one of my videos. Okay. Last but certainly not least, let's say you did share and you shared correctly and they know that you're sharing with them. You need to know what type of share link you sent. Okay, this has also become a major issue. First of all, how to share. I'm in a Google slide right now. There is share. Here is share. Notice this says private to only me. I'm the only one who has access to this current presentation. And remember, everything is linked through Drive, so you can also share there. There you can share like an entire folder if you want to. Okay. But you need to know how you're sharing. So for example, I'm going to go here. It says I'm only sharing with myself right now. And right now, I can do several. I can share with just one person or maybe just two people. So if you're working on a class project with a small group of 3 students, the simplest thing is to share right here. Do their whole thing, username at ebrschools.org, be done. You can also do it where you get a link. Let's say you wanted to send something out to your whole class, like a presentation. You could do a link, all right? But that's still not enough because you need to know at what level you're sharing. So for example, I'm going to go right here. I can actually share 3 different links. I can share a viewer link, a commenter link, or an editor link. Now, a viewer link is what I would call, it's like looky, no touchy. All you can do is look at it and read it. A commenter is someone who can kind of touch. They can touch enough to give suggestions and comments. Ooh, that's good. Change that. Do this, do that. But they can't actually change the fundamental document. Now, an editor, they can do just what you're doing pretty much. They can delete, they can add, they can comment, they can this, they can share, they can. That's that level. Which level did you share? Now and if you do the wrong one, they can't do what you need them to do. Now there's also one extra layer, okay? This currently has to be someone logged into an EBR account to be a viewer, a commenter, or an editor. I happen to run the school, I'm one of the people who runs the school website. I might need to change that to anyone with a link. Parents, grandparents, etc., do not have access, anyone with a link to an EBR account. But maybe you want your mom to, review your work before you turn it in. If you're going to use the route of sharing with her, she does not probably, unless she's an employee, have a district account. So you're going to use the anyone with the link. Okay. And once again, viewer, commenter, editor. All right. I've had situations where teachers have sent out a link thinking it was view only, and then every kid in it tried to change it. I've had it where the teacher has tried to make it so that they can edit it, but no one could touch it. I've made this mistake, like on the school website, wanting all people to see it, but I use an EBR account. On the flip side, if I only wanted something that an EBR person could access, I could still put it on the website. Anybody could see that I made the link, but only EBR people could access. All right. So making sure you understand what you're sharing is a big deal. Okay. So that was a lot in a few minutes, but it really is the top reasons I get called. There's other things, cosmetic things. How do I do this? How do I do that? But we tend to have our biggest issues when it comes to logging in, not properly logging out, and therefore putting our stuff in accounts that are not ours, not understanding the connection between Drive and the basic other apps that you can work in both. So if a teacher sees some kids in Google Docs and some kids in Google Drive, they might still all actually be doing the same thing, but they're coming at it from a different angle. The issue of make a copy, I think with us using Google Classroom, this one's going to be a big one this year. So please make sure that you understand that everything you do in Google Classroom is actually being saved in a folder in Google Drive. And sometimes you need to go to that folder to get what you need. Understanding the difference between sharing and emailing, and recognizing that schools coded as high schools can now activate student emails. Okay. And also, what's the difference between that and sharing? And certainly, last but not least, the different types of share links, making sure you give people the access level that you think they need to have. Remember, if you have any questions, my email is emurray, EMURRAY, please remember the A, at ebrschools.org, and good luck this year. Thank you so much.